despite being surrounded by murderous enemies on all sides that have zero rules of engagement, Israel's military shows extraordinary restraint in dealing with the likes of Hamas and Hezbollah. The Israel Defense Forces go to unprecedented lengths to avoid civilian casualties, even as the terrorists they are battling use civilians as human shields. Nevertheless, some in the international community call Israeli soldiers war criminals and killers. It's a false narrative, and it's an evil narrative. That's why I'm so glad that we're joined today by Sergeant Benjamin Anthony. He's the founder and director of a great organization called Our Soldiers Speak that advocates for Israeli soldiers on college campuses and in other public forums throughout the United States. Sergeant Anthony is also a good friend of Christians United for Israel, and he joins us this week to bring the truth about the Israel Defense Forces in which he has bravely served. Sergeant Anthony, so great to have you here with us on The Watchman. Finally.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you know, we've been sharing stages together for years now at Kufi events, right, and it's great to have you on camera now. Talk a bit about the rules of engagement of the IDF, and in particular how the IDF goes to extraordinary lengths to avoid civilian casualties.
Well, if you want to begin with the rules of engagement, that's actually a very important point, because I was a soldier who was stationed in Hebron for several months. Now, Hebron is a very complicated area to be a soldier in the Israel Defense Forces, because unlike other areas where one might be stationed, it's Palestinian Arab house next to Jewish house, next to Palestinian Arab house, and so on and so forth. So the proximity of the challenges is very, very close indeed. And therefore there are very, very careful rules of engagement that every combat soldier of the Israel Defense Forces knows and adheres to. And so I'll give you an example of that. Supposing there is an attempted assault against a soldier of the IDF by way of somebody throwing a Molotov cocktail toward him. The soldier of the IDF has to say in Arabic, Waqif. Waqif means stop. If the assailant continues, they then have to say, Waqif wala ana batuqa, stop or I'll shoot. If they then continue to move towards the soldier has to cock his gun in the air, signifying the fact that there is a bullet in the chamber and that he or she means business. If that continues, they're allowed to fire a bullet at 60 degrees, hitting no property or person. And if the assault continues, they are entitled to then open fire for the knee down. And if they then continue, and believe it or not, people do continue even after being hit in the leg, they are then and only then entitled to open fire aiming for the center of the chest with the intent to kill. Now, those are the rules of engagement for any soldier of the Israel Defense Forces, and everyone knows them. And I would challenge anybody listening to this show to bring me the rules of engagement of either Hamas or Hezbollah.
Yeah.
And of course there'd be a stony silence because there are no such rules.
Yeah. Describe some more, a bit more, so the audience really understands those complexities, the decisions that have to be made in a split second by Israeli soldiers when Hamas is using human shields, and just insane situations that the IDF has to deal with and still deals with it admirably.
So the Israel Defense Forces, as I try to explain to people, deploys ground forces into the battlefield not to occupy an area militarily, but in order to make the differential between an innocent party and a guilty party. And incidentally, the complex situations are not only or exclusively over there in Gaza or in Lebanon or anywhere else, but they're actually happening within the state of Israel. So that can be that, for example, one might encounter a house where there are rockets that are held within the homes of a civilian family home. It could be, for example, that there are booby traps if one tries to remove a television or get dug in and fortify a place where they're wishing to be stationed for the evening. One can pull a television set away from the wall and one can find that those are actually booby traps to set off explosive detonations. Yeah. There are myriad numbers of problems, not just in Gaza, but in Lebanon, in Hebron, anywhere that one looks to. And the soldiers of the IDF are willing to walk through those risks and those challenges for one reason only, which is that at the end of those campaigns, despite all of those difficulties, they can return to their lives as civilians with a clear conscience. But I do want to emphasize something very, very important here, which is that all of these traps, booby traps, pitfalls that are laid for the killing of IDF soldiers are laid with the certain knowledge by those who lay those traps that they may yet kill innocent civilians in the course of targeting soldiers of the Israel Defense Force, and that's utterly perverse because at the point of launch they do not know whether those rockets are coming to a military base, they do not know whether they're going to hit a hospital, they don't know whether they're going to hit a home, and they could not care less. The goal is to kill innocent Israelis.